Hey everyone, I just finished upgrading my HP Z420 Workstation and I wanted to share my configuration with you, since I've seen many people online looking for ways to upgrade this nice machine. First, I want to tell you that this is not a definitive configuration. There are plenty of configuration you can make with different components, but this offers great performance and no compatibility issues whatsoever. The HP Z420 is a great machine, with good performance and good expandability, but it has some issues related to the business-oriented use and to some proprietary things that limit the possible upgrades. So, let's begin. For the motherboard, I stayed with the original motherboard, with the LGA 2011 socket and 8 RAM slots supporting up to 128 GB of RAM. It's DDR3 RAM. It's a good board, it has plenty of SATA ports and PCI ports, but the big flaw is the power delivery. The board has a HP proprietary 8-pin ATX connector and an 8-pin power connector, so there is no compatible PSUs you can find except the OEM HP one. I don't recommend using a 24-pin to 8-pin adapter for installing a aftermarket PSU. When I bought the machine brand new, it came with a Delta Electronics 600 watts PSU that was the most powerful available and also plenty for future upgrades. The only problem with this PSU is a power connector of the GPU, as we will see. But if you want to upgrade your machine, your Z420 to its maximum power, make sure to have the 600 watts PSU. For the CPU and RAM, I wanted no compatibility issues, so I choose from the list of compatible Intel Xeon processors. This is my third and last CPU upgrade, and I ended up with buying a Intel Xeon E5-1650 V2 used on eBay for around €130. The CPU has 6 core and 12 threads and a clock speed of 3.5 GHz with a turbo option up to 3.7 GHz. If you're lucky enough, you can find and buy a Xeon E5-1660 V2, which is slightly more capable, but in both cases you end up with a CPU comparable to a 9th generation mid-range or even high-range Intel Core i5, which is, plenty for 1080p gaming. For the RAM, I also followed the specifics, and I ended up with 32 gigs of RAM divided in 8 sticks of 4 GB Micron PC3 40900E ECC DDR3 RAM, clocking at 1866 MHz, the highest RAM speed and RAM clock supported by the CPU. For the storage, I recommend just a standard SSD for the system and some additional drives for storage if you want. This case has a toolless mount system, so the drives are easy to install and remove. But else there is not much to say, so let's move on. Here we are at the dreaded graphics card topic. I've been upgrading a graphics card over the years, but I think I've reached the top performance supported by this machine. Not because of bottlenecks, but because of power delivery. As I told you before, there are some limitations in upgrading a pre-built workstation like this, both for proprietary HP choice or for the business intended use. So, the Z420 PSU has only 1 or 2 graphics card power delivery cables, and they are all 6-pin PCI connectors. As you may know, many high-end GPUs has only 8-pin PCI connectors. The difference between these two connectors are in ground pins and power delivery rating. The 6-pin connectors has a 2+1 optional 12-pin, so you can both end with a 2-pin 12 volts or a 3-pin 12 volt 6-pin connector and 3 ground cables. And this connector is rated for 75 watts of delivery. The 8-pin connector has 3 12 volts pin and 5 ground pins, and it's rated for 150 watts of delivery. If your PSU has only one 6-pin connector like mine, you gotta make sure that it has 3 12 volts pin. And I tested it, and the standard OEM HP PSU has these 3 pins. Once you've made sure this, you can get a graphics card that has a maximum power draw of 150 watts. Because the PCIe slots provide 75 watts, plus the 75 watts provided by the 6-pin connector. If you stay under this limit, so 150 watts, it is fine to use a 6-pin to 8-pin PCI adapter, because there are no electrical issues with this. My choice ended up on a Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 5500 XT card that has a 8 gigs GDDR6 memory and a high clock speeds. You can get any card you want compatible to this, but it has to be less than 150 watts in power consumption if your PSU has only one 6-pin connector. If your PSU has two 6-pin connectors, you can go as high as 225 watts in power with an adapter. But you gotta make sure that your system is not already drawing too much power with CPU, RAM, drives, and everything else. Before upgrading, make a power consumption test or use a configurator online. So, in conclusion, the HP Z420 Workstation is a wonderful machine. Whether it's for business, working, or gaming use, it can deliver incredible performance. There are plenty of Z420s that you can buy or pick up used or brand new for less than 500 euros and with good parts installed too. As you saw before, it has some limitations, but if you follow the advices I gave you, you can enjoy some awesome gaming on this machine. So that's it guys, thanks for watching, and I hope this video was helpful for you and your Z420 machine, and if you have any requests or doubt, leave a comment and let me know. See you next time.